So 64 was over. You had a huge landslide win for Johnson. Plus, how did the legislature look?
Legislature really looked good. You know, at one time, and I think that Art would remember this, they had a picture in the Register and Tribune before we took over. They had 7 of the senators and House members in a telephone booth. Okay, that's what we started out with. So we took that over. We took the legislature over, and my position was, when we took the legislature over, we had a party platform, and anybody that didn't support the party platform in the legislature, I had a meeting of all the legislators. I said, now folks, let me tell you something. I said, I'm a party guy, and we went through a lot of stuff to get this platform, and I want everybody in this room to support the platform. Of course, we had some renegades, okay? So I had another meeting, and I said, folks, let me tell you this. If you don't support the party platform in the legislature, I might not beat you, but I'm going to cost you a lot of money in the primaries. And that was my position. And the governor was kind of hostile to this. In fact, the matter is, I tried to change our Constitution so that our party could get into the primaries, so we could control who in the hell was getting in. The Republicans are having a big problem with that right today.
Yes, they are. Right.
So everybody, there's no question but what I was a dictator, okay? But I claimed I was a benevolent dictator, you know? I was out to run the party. I was out to elect Democrats, and that was all my job was. I wasn't out to win friends. I wasn't out to do anything except elect Democrats. And in those days, that was kind of unpopular internally in the party. When I was first elected as chairman, of course, there were a lot of Jake Moore people still on the committee. My first year, when I had the committee meetings, the first thing was to vote whether I was going to keep state chairman's job.
Really?
Really. And the only way I won was voting for myself.
Well, that's how close it was.
You bet. So it was hard. It was really tough and hard because we were faced with a lot of entrenched people. Herschel Lovelace was a Democratic governor. Clyde Herring before him. Clyde Herring's son was the Polk County attorney. Okay, but he was also 5th District committeeman. So I had to take him on, you know, to become. So there were a lot of internal fights that were bitter. I mean, really bitter.
But sometimes it takes a strong leader to take out. I remember that there was a time when there was one Democrat in the state Senate in the 50s, and he was caucusing in the phone book by himself.
Yeah.
And you took it from that point to the point where you carried the legislature and had all the congressional seats, except for one, in 64, because I think there was one that was still around, right?
That's right.
So
Gross.
Yeah, no Gross. He always voted no, right? He was still in office.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'd swept him out.
That's right.
Liquor by the drink, capital punishment were both taken care of, I think, before 64's election. After 64, did you get any other significant legislation through that you were proud of?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Because I was involved in the 60s when Johnson was in, and you've heard of Grant Park. I was in that riot. I was in that riot in Grant Park.
1968?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I wasn't state chairman then.
Yeah.
But I was anti-war, you know, which I've always been. And so when people talk about Grant Park, I really know what Grant Park was like.
Well, let's just take it kind of. Can I talk to you about 66 for a second?
Sure.
Harold Hughes was elected, again, by a massive margin. Very successful that way, and I think you had some other statewides that you elected. But did we lose the legislature in '66? Was that a big Republican comeback year?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that's all right, that's all right. And you said that you were chair through '66.
Yeah.
Why did you step down as chair?
I felt that my time was over.
Okay.
You're state chairman. You know what it's like to be state chairman.
I haven't been, but I know that's busy. Yeah, they're busy. They last 2 years now. You lasted 6.
Yeah, so
Excuse me.
I felt that I had contributed to my party. I'd done what I wanted to do, and it was time for me to get out, period.
Lex, I'm not going to, we're only talking about politics today, but I want everybody to understand that you had a very busy and successful law practice you were doing at the same time. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is not something that was just your only job.
Oh, no.
But
no.
it sounds like you made it similar to what most people would do full time.
Well, when I was chairman, I got no money. I didn't have any salary or anything of that nature. And the only thing that I had was that my legal secretary, the time that she spent on politics, she was paid for that. And she spent over half of her time in my law office on politics. So that was the only perk that I got.
Was there an executive director of the party at that time who was paid?
Clark Rasmussen.
Okay. We know Clark. We've interviewed him, and he's terrific.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, see, when I left as state chairman,
Uh-huh.
he was my administrative assistant.
Uh-huh.
And so my program was, I want a very clean transmission, but from one to the next, because of all of the problems that I'd had, you know,
Right.
kicking out Jake Moore and all that jazz. So we engineered it so he became state chairman.
So, but Clark went from a paying job to a not paying job?
I don't know what I get. I can't remember that.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there.
Excuse me. Let's talk about '68. '68, we had the Humphrey, Kennedy, McCarthy thing all going on. Did you support a presidential candidate there?
Humphrey.
Okay.
And I got into a big fight with the United Auto Workers because they were for Kennedy. Okay. Bob Johnson, who was the regional director of the Auto Workers, and I were really close friends. But I said, he called me up, he says, I want you to go for Kennedy, Bob Kennedy. I said, I've already committed. And he really got ticked off. And so that was another problem. But then, of course, Kennedy got assassinated, and that cured that problem.
Yeah. You said you were in Chicago. Were you a national delegate?
I was an alternate.
Okay, well, this is good enough. I know, get in the hall.
I was 4 times delegate.
Okay, so how was Grant Park? Was that a nice, peaceful gathering, or?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? I mean, it was riots. It was It got so bad that I went across the street to the hotel and sat in the bar, and those were my drinking days. You know, got the hell out of there before I got hurt.
Probably see things through the bar window. I know it's right across the street, so it worked out well.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything else about the '68 convention?
No, I really don't.
Were you in the hall when Senator Ribicoff was lecturing daily from the podium?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, all of those fights. I remember Burns. They set him on fire on the on the convention floor. Man, there are certain things that you remember, but there are certain things that you don't either. And when I got out of politics, I got out of politics. Bing, just like that. And so I didn't, after I was an alternate in '68, then I just didn't participate anymore.
Wow, so you weren't involved in the election of '68 at all? Harold Hughes is up for Senate? And
yeah.
No, you didn't do much, huh?
Well, that's not true. That's not true. Harold and I had some big fights internally in the party. And the problem was that we were working on whether he was going to be a senatorial candidate or not. And it took him a long time to figure all that out. And I, of course, the problem, the party, and I was still talking to the party people, of course, but after that, I just left the party. I still vote Democratic, you know, so I can live like a Republican.
That's right. So after that, you weren't active in party politics after 68, huh? Other than just to vote?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, that's incredible. It's an incredible journey, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and as you look back on it, those were the days when Johnson came in. We got those civil rights bills. Yeah. You know, we accomplished what we were really set out to do. Yeah. You know.
Nationally.
And so it was a great ride.
Yes.
You know, a lot of dead bodies on the way.
That's right.
You know, but.
So you were motivated by the big picture. I've also quoted you, and you can tell me if this isn't true, but you said that I believe that I try my cases on the Hill. In other words, you would try to get legislation enacted that would also favor your clients in the courtroom.
Oh,
is that right?
Oh, you bet. You bet. The law business was very interesting to me. All lawyers are educated to look backwards. Stare decisis. What some judge did 30 years ago is what the law ought to be today.
Yes.
That's absolutely wrong. Society is at least 1 to 2 generations ahead of the law.
Yes.
Okay? And so my position was to try to change the law to come up to society. And of course that's what we did with civil rights and all the rest of it. When I got out of the law business, I started to look forward rather than backward. And I've been pressing the envelope ever since.
You pressed the envelope when you were a lawyer.
You bet.
Okay, so, I mean, you say you look backwards, but you actually made law.
Yeah, you bet.
I remember when you were trying to get you kept on trying to push the envelope back on jury sizes, too.
Yeah, you bet.
So, I think that's unfair for you to say that you always look backwards. I think as a lawyer you look forward to, didn't you?
Well,
you were looking for changes in the legislation, too, that would bring society up.
That's correct. That's correct. So, I don't know the health of the Democratic Party in Iowa today.
Good.
I'm just not here. This is a good. Yeah.
No, it's your legacy.
Yeah, but
we carry the state for presidential candidates.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, in '64, we became a blue state. From red to blue, and now it's gone to purple and back to blue, and you know it's a marginal state. But when I look back, I think of our present president.
Yes.
I never thought I'd see that.
Yes.
A black man sitting as president of the United States. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now I want a woman. In my lifetime.
You'll get it. 1984, Reagan carried the state of Iowa. Since that time, only one presidential candidate for the Republican side has carried it, and that was in '04. Bush carried it by just a few votes.
Yeah.
And we should have won that one, too.
Sure.
So that's your legacy. You should be proud of that.
Thank you.
I think we'd still do well.
Thank you.
But you just changed the whole attitude. Up until then, it was Republican and nobody thought differently, and you caused it to be a balanced state like you've indicated.
Well, if you have 58 congressional elections and you haven't won one of them, there's got to be something wrong.
58-0. That was pretty brutal.
You bet.
Okay.
We had badges, you know.
I wouldn't want to take you on, Lex.
Well, I had some great help, really great help. Art Hedberg, my mother, Catherine McNerney. I mean, these people were brutal.
Yes.
Don't ever cross any of them.
Well, I think it was interesting that you were all young, you all came together at the right time,
Sure,
and you all had a single focus, even though you'd fight.
sure.
And I know when I talked to Art and to others, I would always break them down in some of those fights, like in 1968. And they'd be on opposite sides of the fence, or with the Carter Kennedy race in 80.
Sure.
But you know something? They still would work together.
Oh, sure.
So they'd move on from all those times.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Lex.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate talking to you.
You're welcome.